Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, FD for Sage5.tv. And in this video, I want to share with you guys when I think Bitcoin is going to reach a ceiling and provide you evidence or theories why that could be the case. It cannot continue going up all the time. There is going to come a point when Bitcoin stops increasing in price. And that is a realistic factor as well. And it might actually happen before you know it. So if you're interested in knowing where I'm taking this to, please keep watching. And if you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing to our channel. We are one of the few channels that brings you original content. We don't just regurgitate what has been reported or published elsewhere. We actually do some research to try and educate the crypto masses so that you can make your own decisions and see things clearer instead of listening to maxis and so forth. So in this video, like I said, we want to share with you guys when I think the price for Bitcoin is going to plateau. It's not going to keep on increasing. There's going to be a ceiling to be hit. When that is, that's what you're here for. But know that this is not financial advice. These are just my own opinions, entertainment, and all that razzmatazz. So coming back to my explanation on when I think Bitcoin is going to plateau. The price is going to plateau. It's not going to continue increasing. So let's start with the supply and demand aspect of it, and we can use the classical economics supply and demand theory, right? Bitcoin is a fixed supply of 21 million tokens or coins, fixed supply of 21 million coins, meaning that eventually no new BTC will be mined. I think this is estimated to be around 2140, but there's only about 6% or so left. Majority have been mined already. If demand stabilizes at a certain level where no newcomers are entering the market, Bitcoin's price could reach an equilibrium and stop rising significantly. This is quite realistic, and this theory, the classical theory of economics of supply and demand, has been proven to work for generations, so it's not something to smack at, it's something to consider, albeit not crazy or urgent, but it's something to consider regardless. Once institutional investors, nation states, and retail investors reach a saturation point, the number of new buyers will start to decline. Again, that is a real prospect that will happen because not everyone wants to hold Bitcoin. And the possible end result here is that Bitcoin will behave like gold, reaching a price ceiling and stabilizing around that level with slow and long-term fluctuation. That will also come. That is coming. So ignore the people who are telling you the price of Bitcoin, well, there's no limit, it's limitless. There is a limit because economics say so, theories say so, not some welcome from, say, the likes of Michael Saylor or Cat Wood. When those guys are speaking, it's like they're speaking in a vacuum and their thoughts are isolated. They don't sit back and consider the whole picture. They are only thinking about the there and now. They live in the now, or they just want to pump their bags. That's how I see it anyway. You may have different thoughts. Bitcoin could become a stable global reserve asset rather than a speculative investment. That will also contribute to the restrictions or limitations on how high it could go. So that was the supply and demand, the classical economics theory on supply and demand that indicates that at some point there will be a slow grind or stabilization of the price. Instead of seeing these exponential price rises, that will stop at some point, probably sooner than you think. Next, let's consider Metcalfe's law, which is that of network effects. Metcalfe's law states that the value of a network is proportional to the square of the number of its users. Users, not just holders, users, okay? That's something to consider. So because people think just because you hold Bitcoin, you're a user. You're not a user, you're just holding it, just holding it. You're not using the network. Bitcoin's prices historically increased as more people adopted it. However, if user growth slows down or reaches a peak, Bitcoin's price may stabilize and plateau. Possible end result, Bitcoin will become widely adopted as a global medium of exchange or store of value. It will still be valuable but may no longer experience exponential growth. That is down to Metcalfe's law. It's not me making this up. Next, let's look at the efficient market hypothesis or EMH. The efficient market hypothesis or EMH suggests that markets efficiently price in all available information. As Bitcoin becomes widely understood and fully integrated into financial markets, there will be less speculative hype. This is a strong one. You need to consider this. If you're still dreaming that, oh, this exponential growth is never ending and the price will keep skyrocketing, think again, because this will come to a point where it will stabilize. Whether it will experience a dump to stabilize at a lower level or stay where it is, that's something else. But if people see that the speculation part is gone, people will probably come out of Bitcoin. So the price is most likely going to stabilize below its all-time high. How far from all-time high? I can't tell you that. I can only tell you that it will stabilize at a lower price than whatever the final all-time high will be. And again, that may happen sooner than you think. Price discovery will slow down, meaning price increases will be gradual rather than explosive. And the possible end result here is that Bitcoin becomes a stable financial asset comparable to gold or government bonds with less volatility. Speculation will die down and Bitcoin growth curve will flatten. How many people are actually thinking that? They are thinking of external factors that are not connected to any of these models or theories that we are discussing today. They're trying to create their own models that prove or tell them what they want to hear instead instead of actually looking at reality. This is what has happened in history, and this is what's likely going to happen. But like I said, I can't tell you when some of these things will kick in, but it's most likely going to be sooner than you think. Next, let's look at the stock to flow model. This is a model that has been broken before. I think it was broken during the 2021 bull run. The stock to flow model, which predicts Bitcoin price based on scarcity, suggests that each halving event reducing new BTC supply leads to higher prices. However, this is kind of stretched out to the final mining of Bitcoin, and that will probably not be relevant to most of us. The final Bitcoin will be mined around 2140 with no further halvings taking place. If demand remains constant but supply stops decreasing, the model breaks down and Bitcoin plateaus. Possible end results: Bitcoin will reach a peak valuation, after which its price movements will be dictated by macroeconomic forces rather than scarcity. But this stock to flow model is quite a recent thing, and it's not been proved to be robust enough, so I would rather trust the other three models before this one. The next theory that I want to look at is the theory of diminishing returns and market maturity. Earlier in its cycle, Bitcoin experienced massive price increases because it was new and speculative. Adoption was low but growing exponentially. The market was small and inefficient. As Bitcoin matures, the rate of return on investments decreases. I think that has been proven as well, that the returns on Bitcoin have been decreasing maybe by around half. So if it went, say, 2017, if it went up by, say, 100x, as an example, I'm not saying that is accurate. The following bull run, like 2021, if it had gone up by, say, 50x instead of 100x, that's been the nature of Bitcoin's evolution price-wise. Okay. In mature markets, assets tend to stabilize and prices moving in smaller, predictable patterns. Anyone telling you otherwise, they don't understand how economics and some of these theories we're covering in here today work, especially the diminishing returns theory. Bitcoin won't disappear, but it won't generate the massive gains it once did, similar to that of real estate or gold. They are not crazy returns. They're still decent, but not crazy as we've been experiencing to date. So when will Bitcoin plateau? Well, mass adoption reaches saturation. For example, that is almost everyone who wants to own Bitcoin already does. Then there's no more demand coming from anywhere. Institutional and government regulations makes Bitcoin a traditional asset rather than a high risk speculative one. And when the final Bitcoin is mined, most likely won't apply to all of us because that will be after our time on this planet. A reasonable estimate of when Bitcoin stops experiencing rapid price appreciation could be between 2050 and 2080. So not as far as you thought. It's actually sooner than you thought. So most people within the crypto space today, most, not all of us, but most will probably experience that period, depending on global adoption trends and regulatory frameworks. What happens after Bitcoin plateaus? Well, scenario one is that Bitcoin becomes a global reserve asset, which is the best case. Bitcoin replaces gold as the primary store of value. Governments and central banks hold BTC as a reserve currency. It's already starting to take effect, isn't it? And Bitcoin's price stabilizes at a multi-million-dollar level, moving like gold or the S&P. Scenario two, Bitcoin becomes a medium of exchange, which provides stable utility. Instead of holding BTC, people use it for transactions. Bitcoin functions like a global payment network. Prices stabilize as it becomes widely used but not hoarded. So hoarding, you're trying to choke the supply. But if you're using it, it's in free flow. And there will be other assets that will give you higher returns anyway. And the third and final scenario is that Bitcoin fails to maintain relevance, which is the worst case. If new technologies emerge that are better, faster, and more efficient, Bitcoin could lose dominance. Bitcoin stagnates or gradually declines. Governments may create more attractive digital currencies, for example. So those are the three scenarios that I think will happen, or one of those will happen once Bitcoin or after Bitcoin plateaus. My final thoughts on that is that Bitcoin price will not rise forever, guys. If you think so, you are deluded. You don't know how the world works, especially economics. Economic theory suggests that eventually Bitcoin price will plateau as adoption reaches full penetration, market forces stabilize, and the reduced speculation is now at play. Institutional players dominate and mining stops. But the mining will probably be the last to come to play, but the others, I think they'll come a lot earlier than most people think. However, plateauing does not mean Bitcoin will lose value. Instead, it will likely become a stable, universal, recognized asset, much like gold or the global reserve currency of the future. But it doesn't mean as a reserve currency to keep appreciating. People will probably start, it will reach a limit and people will start trading in Satoshi instead of single Bitcoins as a whole. What are your thoughts, guys? Let me know what you think about the price of Bitcoin coming to a ceiling or the price of Bitcoin plateauing, and what do you think will happen after that? I'll be interested in knowing that. Until the next one, guys, this is FD for Sage5.tv signing out for now. Bye.